Some of the drones that struck Poland came from Belarus, where Russia and Belarus are beginning massive joint military exercises this Friday. The Zapad drills, meaning West in Russian, are due to last for 5 days. They were last held in September of 2021, just months before Russia invaded Ukraine. NATO allies are on high alert, concerned the drills are more than simple military exercises. As of midnight, Poland closed its border with Belarus, and fellow neighbor Lithuania is also stepping up its border controls. Well, for some insight, we can speak to Peter Zalmayev, director of the Eurasian Democracy Initiative. Good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with us.
Good morning.
I want to start by asking you actually about this week's drone incursions into Poland. Do you believe that they were deliberate?
Of course, they were deliberate, and just as much as the previous few accidents were deliberate, with one or two exceptions. Remember also there was a violation of the Romanian airspace as well. Vladimir Putin is clearly sending a signal that he views NATO's collective security chapter a fiction, and he is probing. He's trying to prove that, in fact, this chapter 5 is not going to be invoked, is not effective. And we're seeing that, reluctance on the part of the Poles and its European allies not to mention Donald Trump's reaction, which actually parroted Vladimir Putin's line that this was not us, this was a mistake. The Russians are claiming there was the Ukrainians behind it, etc. So this sort of reaction is precisely what Vladimir Putin is trying to prove, that when the push comes to shove, NATO is not going to be able to stand by a member under attack.
So in your view, these drones that were fired at Poland were a test, and the West failed, essentially?
Yes, it failed essentially, and of course, Putin is always playing some multi-dimensional chess. It was not just to probe that. Maybe it's too soon to say that the West has failed. It has to get its act together and put together a plan of action. Already, France and Germany are boosting their defenses. Helping Poland boost its defenses. So I wouldn't say, let's not speculate, let's not say it's 100% fail. But once again, Putin is constantly operating in this sort of fog of war and doing just enough not, to have plausible deniability. Let's not forget that another goal that he's pursuing, he's trying to help whip up anti-Ukrainian and anti-war hysteria in countries like Poland, where it is actually fertile ground now. There are some, I wouldn't say pro-Russian, but very Ukraine-skeptic parties, such as Freedom Party, that Putin wants to encourage and embolden with these provocations to sort of amplify the voices of those who say that, the more we support Ukraine, the less secure we are. We have to worry about our own security. We cannot sort of give out all this weaponry, etc. And that's precisely Vladimir Putin's goal. It's once again a multidimensional chess that he is hoping to outwit his European adversaries. Once again, Europe is not a country. Europe is a confederation of different states with different fractious politics. Vladimir Putin is confident that as long as he holds firm, as long as China has his back, he can win this game.
We also have these joint military drills beginning today between Russia and Belarus. Can you talk a little bit about those exercises and what we expect them to entail?
Well, these exercises have been taking place since 2009. It's nothing new, of course, but in light of the last 3 years of war, where Vladimir Putin has essentially turned Belarus into its military protectorate, has based tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, essentially treating Belarus as its own sort of territory, its own sort of testing ground to once again provoke Western nations into various different reactions, including hysteria and fear of Russian militarism, etc. This is, of course, very worrying. Vladimir Putin once again is still, I think, fixated on eventually controlling the so-called Suwalki corridor, which is this little strip of land that separates Russia proper, the main territory of Russia, with Kaliningrad Oblast to the west. It's been Putin's dream to connect those two areas of Russia, and the Baltic states are very well aware of these plans, and so of course I think. Donald Tusk, the the Prime Minister of Poland, and Radek Sikorski, the Foreign Minister of Poland, are very much correct, saying that this is not just run-of-the-mill exercise. This is a very provocative gesture meant to further escalate, to inflame. In fact, there's a term in political science now increasingly used. It's called escalate to de-escalate, and this is sort of what Russians think may be the outcome of this. They will once again escalate to the point where European countries like Poland, other member states of NATO, will cry uncle and essentially say, enough, let's stand down. We pledge not to support Ukraine anymore. We pledge a solemn no to Ukraine's eventual NATO memberships, etc. So that would be the de-escalation that Putin hopes to achieve with this escalation.
So given, kind of your analysis of what's behind Putin's sort of chess move here, how should NATO and the West be responding? And are they responding in a way that you think is tactical?
I think it's of course, yes. There's tactical elements to the response. Like I said, France's decision to move one of its air carriers closer to the eastern borders of NATO, and in Germany's decision to boost its own defense components, etc. There's a strategic, I think, also a decision emerging. It is a strategic, I think, thinking on the part of the Europeans, as evidenced by Ursula von der Leyen's State of the Union address just recently, where they equate Ukraine's security with their own. So my answer, once again, is the same old, treat Ukraine's security as your own. Ukraine is holding the sort of the fort, is Ukraine's fortress defending the eastern flank of NATO. I think Ursula von der Leyen has made it clear that they consider Ukraine as part of European civilization. And that is the only response, the only credible response to Vladimir Putin, not to stand down, not to walk away from Ukraine, because all it will do is move Russia closer, to Europe's borders. That will be Moldova next. If they're already threatening Poland like that, what about the Baltic states? That will be next up as well. So I think that strategic thinking is emerging. My hope is that it emerges, sooner rather than later.
All right, Peter Zalmayev, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time. Thank you again so much for your analysis this morning. That was Peter Zalmayev, director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative.